Joe Louis, champion of them all, Bourbon presents The Making of Champions. In honor and respect for the legacy of Joe Louis, the longest reigning world heavyweight champion, who became the first African-American national hero, who served in World War II, contributing to the morale of the troops, broke through the color barrier in professional golf, and helped pave the way for future generations of civil rights activists. Each new episode celebrates people who follow his lead in accomplishing extraordinary things to inspire a new generation of champions. It begins now with your hosts, Tanya Cole and Marquise Johns.
So welcome back to part 2 with our talk with Chef Melody Connor. Make sure you follow this podcast on the Joe Louis Bourbon Facebook page. You might find remnants on Podbean and also with Podcast Your Voice. But with me, as always, I've got with me Marquise Johns with New York Fights. How's it going?
Pretty good, Tanya. Looking forward to talking to part 2 with Melody here about her journey in the world of culinary food goodness.
Absolutely. So we've got chef, creator, and experience curator, Chef Melody Connor. How's it going?
Going good.
Going good. Now, the last time we chatted, we talked a little bit about how you got into the industry of culinary arts and being the curator of magnificent, beautiful experiences at your homestead there in Georgia. Can you tell us a little bit about your homestead, Serenita Homestead? You talked about that in part 1. Tell us more about it.
Yes. So again, I was saying how I was very intentional in purchasing a property that would give me purpose on a daily basis. Once I was like working a corporate job of corporate America, and to get up every morning to have always something that needed to be done and whatnot. So buying this house, I didn't learn about the history of it until afterwards, but the front porch sold me. It was reminiscent of the color purple, sitting on the front porch with the swing, and you look down the road and see who's coming up the road. Then the next room was the kitchen, and the kitchen was everything that I dreamed of as far as kitchen with a huge window that looks out into the field. And then, of course, my I call it the Madame Suite, not the master suite, but the Madame Suite, my study. So those 3 rooms were phenomenal, and it's like it was sold for me. And my realtor at the time, she said, because we sat here for an hour, it was like, let's go. We've been here for a while. We'll go to these other appointments to say that we don't want them. And that was it. That was the story. Mm-hmm. But this house at the time was 124 years old, built in 1898 by a former slave named William D. Walker. William D. Walker was very innovative in purchasing 103 acres of a 296-acre land lottery in the state of Georgia. And those 103 acres were, actually for the city of Sonoy was 296 acres. He bought 103 of them, which would have made him a major stakeholder in the city of present day. 96 of those acres are considered unincorporated, and I am considered to be an unincorporated Sonoy, not part of the historic piece of Sonoy. I met and interviewed and spoke with one of his descendants that lived up the road and passing her house every day. Never knew that the descendant of Mr. Walker lives there, and she vaguely remembers her grandfather. She more or less remembers her grandmother because she was very young when her grandfather passed. And just to sit down and just know that, and she actually said that he owned not just this 103 acres, but he was very innovative. He owned his own blacksmith. He owned a mill. He not only just built this house, he built the house that she lives in, and then another house that is maybe about three miles away. So just to know that I'm living in a house that has such rich history and legacy is just amazing.
It is amazing. It is amazing. And for those of us that know a little bit about Sonoya, you don't want to kind of spoil it for everybody, but why don't you tell us, Melody, what is Sonoya known for? Not only it's in Serenita Homestead, but it's known for something else.
It's known for The Walking Dead. I live exactly 5.6 miles away from the Walking Dead filming site.
So did you have any of the actors or the film crew stay with you?
And not as of yet. I haven't had inquiry, but not as yet. But I do have people. When I first opened, and this was pre-COVID, when people would come, they have these huge conventions, and I didn't realize how big a fan base The Walking Dead had.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would have people that would come. I had like repeat guests that would come and stay with me. And this was before I renovated another piece of property to make it into a guest home. So I would have people that stay in the house here with me. And they would come like almost for every convention. And they were like repeat customers. And I didn't realize they had so much going on.
So for Serenita Homestead, I think we've got a picture of your website there. If people want to, could you go to the picture with the pillow? Yeah, there you go. For those that might want to stay at the property, how would they find out more about Serenita Homestead?
I am listed on Airbnb. And right now, though, I have a guest that's staying for, and I think the availability will be open again in June.
Okay.
I think part of June. So, yeah.
So you've got the garden house, and then you've got a nice little, I call it a mega she shed back there, but what do you call it?
It's the guest house, so the garden house of Serenita. Yes, and because with COVID going on, I wasn't keeping guests within the house, and so therefore I was innovative in thinking, let me turn my work shed and renovated it into it transformed into 440 square foot guest house, and it has all the accommodations, sleeping, and is
there a shower in there too?
Yeah, shower, working toilet, everything. Yeah. And
so you got to visit the website so you can see what the garden house looks like, and keep an eye on the website and Airbnb if you're lucky enough to reserve that when it becomes available. And you've got another fabulous property or renovation on that property. What about the juke joint? That's like the hidden place. We won't tell everybody exactly where it is, but what about Mel's juke joint?
Yeah.
So the barn that, and Tanya actually knew the juke joint before it was the juke joint, and just the dream phases. And I would walk people out, walk the property and just say, I want to turn this into something. And I had the opportunity to basically turn it into something that looks, again, reminiscent of something from the 20s, from color purple, where it's not exempt from all the elements, but it does accommodate for space where we will host our bourbon tastings and have sit-down suppers, and I have fire pits available and heating, so therefore we can stay a little bit warm, and yeah, it affords for an awesome spot and unique space.
It is. And I know that, Melody, you honored the state of Georgia with the inaugural pour of Joe Louis bourbon. Can you tell us a little bit about this event?
Yes, that was actually a phenomenal opportunity to learn that me being from Detroit, this Detroit city girl, gone country, Sonoya country, was able to have the opportunity to host the bourbon experience with the inaugural pour of Joe Louis bourbon. That was a phenomenal opportunity. And I just felt as if, that connection of home and the resiliency of Mr. Joe Louis himself, not knowing, again, I was a couple of years old just to find out that he had his own distillery as well. And he was a very inventive and innovative entrepreneur in that aspect, in the several business ventures that he had. So to be able to host that, and we did honor and making sure that that we paired a perfect menu with the different notes of the bourbon that went very well with it, and for experience, to have a first taste of it was, and to be able to set the decor around the same colors, and it was awesome. I had a phenomenal baker that made a cake that resembled the bottle of bourbon as well. And we just had so many. That was a phenomenal day. It was cold that day, but it was a very good day.
I will tell you something too about that dinner. It was because there was so much attention to detail. You had tins hung up in the juke joint of Joe Louis in his boxing days. You had Coca-Cola at the table, which was something that Joe Louis preferred to drink more than anything. And we had images of him around the room, boxing gloves in the space. And there were times during the dinner that I almost felt like he was there giving us his blessing over that dinner.
It was, yes, that was an amazing day. And to be able to sit and, like you said, with the classic Coca-Cola bottles and everything that was reminiscent, and to be able to enjoy and break bread amongst other bourbonites and bourbon drinkers that were appreciative of the fact that a legacy, we were imbibing legacy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And speaking of legacy too, you had someone there who guided the tasting, who started her own legacy itself, and our friend T. Tell us more about her. Who is she?
Tasha Mobley. She is the owner of Bourbon Bliss Atlanta, and she is the first female, African-American female bourbon steward, executive bourbon steward in the state of Georgia.
Nice.
And again, not knowing, power of connection. She was a coworker of mine, and we just started talking about good food, good drink, and come to find out that this connection. And so it just automatically flowed to be able to have somebody to give a more guided tour for those palates that were unfamiliar with how to identify notes in bourbon and whatnot. And she gives an excellent, merging education. We call it edutainment, to be able to information and have a more informed, and then you create experience. And that's why I call it the bourbon foodgasm experience, because food is meant to be experienced, not just ingested, but actually experienced, as well as with bourbon, good bourbon.
And so when they talked about food and then good bourbon, then, that's how I came into the picture. Like, it was a no-brainer. I've been there several times, and it's an amazing place to be. And your food is just simply phenomenal. We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
But I don't know if you knew that Joe Louis himself had a farm. I think he purchased this farm 41 years or so after William D. Walker built his farm. And his farm was called Spring Hill Farm. And he, in quotes, Spring Hill Farm was a good place to eat and drink. He had the first, say that again?
I said, oh, wow. I'm today.
Yeah, you have to look at that. So there he had his own riding stables and a horse track, and he held the first all-Negro horse show there. And Joe loved food so much that he renovated part of the farm and did an add-on so that he can make a restaurant there and a small little social club. So it was the place to be, just like Serenita Homestead. And people would drive miles and miles and miles and miles out, as I do, to visit him and his staff on Spring Hill Farm. So,
wow. Isn't that, it's how universal pull, things come back around, full circle. And I think everything is always by design. It is.
And I noticed too with research that William D. Walker transitioned from this life 1 year after Joe Louis won his heavyweight championship in 1937.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. That is amazing. So how, by design, yes.
Yeah.
It is. And another thing that's really intriguing by design, and I think it's from your hands and it's from your mind and it's from your spirit, but it's also from somewhere else, is your ability to curate these beautiful dishes. And I took a look at your website that you just kind of renovated and put up yourself. And I think that's chefmelcooks.com. Is that correct?
Yes, that is.
And tell us, I know if you could see on your screen about some of these curations that you have on the screen here with us.
So to kind of go back, how I came about to doing the website was because for the opportunity to do an appearance on a Food Network show that is actually airing, and our episode will be airing soon. And so, yeah, there I am. Oh, wow.
Well, congratulations on you being on Food Network. That's huge.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So therefore I want to make sure that I make sure that all my platforms gave a narrative of who I am, Chef Melody Connor, or Chef Mel, that owns Serenita Homestead. Because I was trying to find like how to differentiate, because I wear so many umbrellas, so many hats, and and what story does that tell when you do your elevator or your VC pitch and whatnot. So that is a culmination of all the dishes that I've created. I did Chef's Boot Camp, and then I went to work with a restaurant under contract to stand in for their lead chef that was out ill for the holidays. And so while being there, I created those dishes, and my contract is up with them. And now I am chef for hire right now. And those are, the creativity. I always, again, when I say foodgasm experiences are food that is experienced all 5 of your senses, where I love a beautiful plate. And, when it comes to you and set before you, you're already looking at it like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. Mm-hmm. And then of course your senses of what it smells like is being engaged. So you can look and smell and see, and already know in your mind that this is going to be a phenomenal dish. And then once you taste it, and then you take pause, and it's like, you know what? Somebody loves me in that kitchen. Mm-hmm. And I always say that the gifts that we have do not only just belong to us. We are to give them out to others. And I do truly believe that I sit in the gift of hospitality, all things that involve hospitality. And I believe that love is given whenever I curate a plate of food.
So tell us again, so that others can watch you on Food Network. We wanted to have you on here to spread the word, and so that others could see your gifts. But you're about to have an extremely wide audience on Food Network. Tell us how we can find you there again. Tell us the show, when it's going to air, and how to follow you.
So Chef's Boot Camp is airing. It's airing now. They're in episode 3 or 4 now. But it airs on Thursdays at 10 p.m. And again, I'm not sure which order that I'm in, but I want to say we're projected for the earlier part of May, where our episode will air. And I haven't seen, so I'm nervous. I have anxiety because I don't know how it's been. So yes, just know that, I'm human.
That's right. And I know you can't tell us a whole lot about the show or the episode before it airs, but what was the most rewarding part of participating in Chef Boot Camp?
Yeah.
The takeaway from that was you got to experience who you are as a chef, and the passion behind getting back into the kitchen. And I think in the task that we were given, it reignited that passion that I was, I guess, looking for or searching for again. Because during COVID, you're sitting home in quarantine and you're away from everybody else, and you're just trying to figure out life, navigate this thing called life. And that show, that takeaway was that it reignited that passion within me in the space that I know that I belong in, and I've been kind of running away from, but I know where I belong now. And that's in the kitchen.
Right. You have that passion. You talk about legacy. You talk about the ancestors. Tell us about why legacy is important to you, and what legacy, since you talk so much about others, what legacy do you think that you may leave?
I think, I'm such a history buff, because I believe that we have to know where we have come from to understand where we are presently. And that helps to identify, like, again, the resiliency of the shoulders and ancestors of who I stand upon now have gotten me to this space where I'm able to have choice and to make the decisions and govern myself in the way that I do. I think the legacy that I leave for everyone is that, I'm one that is always going to welcome you to a plate of food. Again, I believe that food is the greatest goodwill ambassador, to be able to sit down unpretentiously at someone's table and break bread with them and have good conversation and have the comfort to be comfortable in that space where you're invited to someone's table is an honor. And I do not take that for granted. And I hope that I make everyone feel when they come and experience my table and sit at my table that they walk away feeling full and feeling that they've enjoyed and experienced a sense of nostalgia, a sense of love, of community and building community. I hope that they take that away whenever they depart from being here.
I know one of the things that is part of the experience of being at Serenita Homestead and having one of your curated dinners is looking and being able to view the picture of William D. Walker there actually in the home at the table. His picture is not even a stone's throw away from the actual dining room table. And you say, I can only hope that I have made this man and my ancestors proud in continuing his legacy and being a champion of hope and dreams manifested. That's such a beautiful, beautiful quote. And what do you think about belief? Belief in oneself and belief in legacy and belief in hope.
And to actually believe in something bigger than ourselves that can only determine because thoughts become form. And we have to be able to think something. You have to believe in that actual thought that has started out as a seed, be it negative or positive. And you give it form once it becomes, if it takes up any more energy. And I believe that we believe in something bigger than ourselves and believe the fact that certain things happen, again, by divine design, universal design. However it happens is beyond our own human comprehension. And we have to give that, I can't even put nouns, pronouns, or adjectives to even describe just how far and firm my belief is in how abundance happens and how good things happen and how things fall into place and you can't give explanation to.
Do you think it manifests on your plate?
Pardon?
Do you think it manifests on the plate?
It is. It puts in manifest. Again, that's the part where thoughts become form. So that you give whatever you give it whatever thought process you give it. It manifests. I believe the universe manifests on your behalf. So if you believe that you can achieve so much, if you believe that you're able to do anything, then I believe the universe stands waiting for you to get out of the way and allow it to manifest in your behalf.
And I think you can't end a podcast or an interview any better than that. Chef Mel, tell us where we can find you, all of your sites. Again, repeat your upcoming appearance on Food Network so that we can find that as well. And we thank you. We thank you so, so much for being on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you for the honor of having me. You can find me on Instagram at FoodgasmXP, that I'm under Chef Mel. You can also find me on Facebook on Melody Connor or the Foodgasm Experience or Serenita Homestead. Those three are on the Facebook. And then my websites are melcooks.com and serenitahomestead.com. And you can see me on Food Network. And again, I'm not sure which, but we Chef's Boot Camp on Food Network Thursdays at 10 p.m.
Set your DVR.
That's a DVR.
That's right. Or better yet, clear your calendar and just watch Thursdays at 10. Believe so hard, and the universe will conspire in your behalf to make it so. Thank you again so much for inspiring our next next generation of champions, regardless of where it is that they choose to find their path. Thank you so much, Melody.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And that's it for the Making of Champions.